Welcome to this week's episode of Cattywampus. I'm Kurt Driscoll, your host, and I got a good friend of mine way back from the days of sweating. I felt like sometimes that Jonathan was going to kill me in there. I'm trying to think what year it was, but he had just opened up a CrossFit gym.
Probably 2011, 2012. Somewhere.
Yeah, and I had this bright idea. I'm going to go in and get in really good shape, and then I'm going to compete against my buddies that we all wanted to see who could do it, throw up more weight, do it faster, and it was. I know I was learning what not to do in CrossFit, and you were in the. I think you just about started right at that point in time.
Yeah, I think we started. Let's see. I quit the police department February 2011, and we opened that place March 2011.
Yeah. So is there pretty close to it, and man, it was. I was in good shape. You got me in good shape. Yeah. I need to probably get back in there, but
it's way different. It's way different now, man.
Oh yeah, it was like, yeah, just do that.
Yeah,
10 more times.
It was
Quit
very
whining.
military. It was very militaristic back then.
I loved it, man. We had a good group of guys, and I know Brent's still involved in CrossFit, and we had a good group of guys, man. So it was
Lewis Thurman. Remember those guys?
Yeah, oh yeah.
No, I saw Lewis a while back.
Yeah, so it was definitely good, but I appreciate you being here today, man.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
And really looking forward to sharing your story with everybody. And so, still in CrossFit business?
Still in the business, man.
So where is it located? So if they want to get in,
it's off of Union Center Drive.
Yeah,
off the Union Center
Drive. So kind of North Alpharetta, South Forsyth.
McFarland, Union Center Drive.
Yep. So we'll put your contact information. Cool. So he doesn't treat you like a military.
It's very different now, man. It's very different.
So we'll invite you out there. You won't get hurt now.
It's
softer. So, but man, thanks for being here.
Yeah, sure.
And so, what's that cattywampus moment in your life that you want to share with everybody today?
Well, I think I've got a pretty decent story. I think I mentioned the police department. I think that's probably one of the most defining moments of my life. Is my time in the police department. In 2010, I was actually shot in the line of duty, and it was I was really good at my job. I was one of the fire-breathing go-getters. I think that's why probably CrossFit rung out to me. Worked with all the SWAT guys, worked with all those guys, and just the real, go-getting, hard-hitting guys, and was a tough guy on the shift, was known for that. Had no problem getting in fights, had no problem, just handling business. And,
right.
April 29th, 2010, 10:22 p.m., my radio traffic keyed up, and I said, signal 50, I've been shot. And that moment, everything went sideways, because that whole identity that I had as a police officer, the entire thing just was wiped away. I no longer was that guy because it was all snatched away from me. And I don't know if people believe God or what, but I know that was a God moment for me, where it was literally taken from, this is who you are, because I'd become the identity of the police officer. I had become that thing. And it was this moment of God going, this is what you were called to do, not who you were called to be.
Yeah.
And,
how did that feel at that moment? Like that?
Real scary. Yeah, I'll give you the short version of that. Got out of my car. My partner was in a fight with somebody. There was a moment in there where the person was trying to get the gun from him, and I stepped up to shoot the person. And as I stepped to shoot, a gunshot went off that was not mine. And it hit me in the lower leg, severed my tibial artery, and I was out of that fight at that point. And as I hopped off, I looked down at my leg, and there was pool of blood, looked like somebody taking a 5-gallon bucket and just poured it all over the floor. Yeah. And I said, fucking shoot her, I need you. And he managed to get her. He was a female. He managed to get her. Well, in today's day and age too, is an unarmed black female. Yeah. But in today's day and age, I don't know what would have happened in that moment. But he cuffed her, came to me, rendered aid. I managed to survive, obviously. but everything was taken from me. And over the next few weeks, like it was all the things that I could do that I was known for, that I was strong for, a strong guy, strongest on the shift, lifting heavy, doing crazy things. I literally had to have somebody bathe me, because I couldn't move. If I stood up, I would just have to stand there and wait until the pain subsided enough that I could move again. So it took everything from me, and I felt helpless. I felt, honestly, I felt lost. I felt like I didn't know where I was going, what I was supposed to do. Yeah. And during that off time, though, was when the idea for that CrossFit gym came to be, because I had been training. I'd been doing this CrossFit type stuff on my own for a while. I had a gym in my house, and that's what I was doing. And I said, I'd already had neighbors and stuff coming over, and they were like, man, you should open a gym. You should open a gym, And so when I got shot and I sat there, I was just literally sitting there on the couch watching movies all day long. That was what, came out to my head, and I said, okay, let's do this. And we made a decision to push forward with it, found a little rundown.
No, it was first class. What are you talking about?
Man, that place was awful.
You didn't even have to find, a lot of people had to go out and buy used tires to flip over in the back.
Man, that place was rough.
You just had to go out back and move some refrigerators and some other shit off the top of them. And the tires were already there.
I remember a winter, man, when we finally got in that place. And I remember the winter. Interesting enough, we opened it in March, right? Yeah. April, that next month was the 1 year anniversary from when I got shot. So that was literally, it was 1 year is how long it took. But I remember a winter, it was 18 degrees outside and it was 21 degrees inside that little gym. Because it had no insulation. It had nothing anywhere.
You could see through the metal every once in a while.
Yeah. And it was awful.
Yeah.
And there was no heat. And I was just recounting a story today of somebody, because they were like, it's cold in here. I was like, y'all shut up. Y'all don't know what cold is.
Yeah.
This old place we were in, the guy's name was Shannon Martin. I don't think he's still alive anymore, but he was the landlord. And I remember I complained to him. I said, dude, you got to get the air handlers fixed in this place so we can get some heat on, because people are going to die.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, you need heat? Man, he showed up with one of those big old tube kerosene things, closed door garages, lights that thing up, and it's nothing but kerosene fumes everywhere. I said, Shannon, you can't do this with people working out. It's going to kill them.
Yeah.
Oh, man. The stories that come from that old place. But
it was good times.
Yeah, it was good times.
So when you're sitting there and you had, how much preparation and planning had you went in to becoming a police officer?
It was like pretty much, I'd wanted it since I was a kid. I'd wanted to do it since I was a kid, but I'd never really given much second thought to it, much opportunity to move forward in it. And it was in the works for probably about a year before I even got selected. And that's a long process. The whole selection process probably took me, it was a year from probably application to even the start of selection. And then it was 6 months for selection. And then it was another 6 months for schooling. And so it was a really long process.
So it's not like so when you're sitting there saying like your identity, everything that was there
it was everything I wanted.
It was everything you wanted.
Yep.
You're in the force. It's all going.
Yep.
An event occurs.
Yes, sir.
And then everything is just there. Where do you feel like it was taken away? Like, was it the emotional side of it to be able to get back into it, or where does it feel the pain and build what?
I think a lot of it was all of that, because I had literally become this thing. I couldn't go anywhere. You go to visit friend's house and they're like, hey, this is Jonathan, he's a police officer, right? There was no, hey, this is just Jonathan, right? It was, this is Jonathan, he's a cop. Like that's just what it was. And so you became that thing. You couldn't turn it off either. The things you saw, the things you did, the stuff that went on, you literally could not turn it off. It's I still struggle with it. Yeah. Hypervigilance is what it's called. I still struggle with it because, I go into a room and loud noises and I'm looking for who I need to shoot. Yeah. So it took a lot of that away when I got shot. But in the same token, God's got a wild plan. I'm going to tell you a little story. I'm going to tell you a backstory, and it's an interesting story. So just go with me on this.
Okay.
It's a story that my father used to tell me all the time. And when my when my sister, who was 10 years older, she's 10 years older than me, was 2 years old. When she was 2 years old, she had a hole in her heart, and they had to go to the Mayo Clinic in, I think it's Minnesota, is where it's at. When they went to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, my dad was a pastor, and he was walking the hallways just praying, hoping that his daughter would survive. When that happened, there was a little old man that came up to him, and he was in overalls. Little man with overalls, had a Fedor hat. So he always told the story, always had a Fedor hat. And this guy came up to him and he put his hand on his shoulder and he said, Wayne, can I pray for you? Dad never told him his name. He said, Wayne, can I pray for you? And he said, yeah, that'd be great. And he said, your daughter's going to be fine. She's going to live a long life. Going to have kids, going to have grandkids. Everything's going to be awesome. Prayed for him. That's the story Dad told. And Dad said when he looked up, the guy wasn't there. So he laid hands on him, prayed for him, disappeared. We don't know what that is. Maybe that's an angel. Maybe that's something. We don't know what that was. So 2007, it is August of 2007. And I get a phone call after I'd been at the police department for a little while. And the phone call was my brother-in-law. And he said, where are you at? And I said, I'm coming in from shift. And he goes, well, your dad's down. And I said, what do you mean down? He said, well, they're working him. I said, like CPR? And he goes, yes. He said, you need to get to the hospital. I said, okay. So I got in my little Jeep, 456 gears in the front and rear. The thing did max 70 miles an hour before it started coming apart.
Yeah.
So I'm 70 miles an hour down the road, get home, pile up the wife, take off she's 9 months pregnant, due like any second. Take off to the hospital, walk into the hospital. I'm in full uniform, walk in. Everybody greets me at the door. They're like, oh my God, he's whipped back here. We don't know what's going on. I walk up to the door and there's a security guard standing there. And I said, open the door. And he goes, no. And I said, you're going to open the door. I'm going to go through it. And he goes, pushes the button, opens the door. And I walk in. I said, where's Edwards? And he said, down the hall. And I walked straight down the hallway. There was a room and I had a glass window, small glass window, because it was the ER room. And when I walked to the door, there was a guy behind the door that I actually lifted weights with. His name was Mike, and he was a monster human being. But he saw me, waves at me through the window, and comes over, and he says, hey, man, how's it going? He goes, was this one of yours? And I said, kinda. And I didn't say anything. I didn't tell him anything. He said, well, you can come on in. And so I stepped in. My dad's laying naked on a stainless steel slab, and they're doing CPR, and he's swollen and gray, and it's pretty awful. Tubes going in everywhere and out everywhere. And I walk over to him and I kiss him on the forehead and I said, Dad, if you need to go, I got it. It's hard for me to talk about still. But I walked back out. The whole room froze when I did that because they realized, oh, shit, this is his dad.
Yeah.
And I said, who's in charge? Female doctor said, I am. I said, is he going to make it? And she goes, well, we're doing all we can. I just held up my hand. And I went, don't do that. I've heard that before. Tell me the truth. And she goes, probably not. And I said, thank you. I said, I'll wait out here for your word. So I stepped out and I walked in a little room. Now, I'm in a room that's, it's probably a 12 by 10 room, like off of an ER room. And there's a gurney with a steel girder on the side, or steel railing on the side of it. And I walk in and I grab the railing and I just bust out crying, just start falling apart. And I'm crying my eyes out. And I hear somebody walk in the room. It's a dude in a tweed suit. It's a brown tweed suit. He's got a cane in his hand, and he walks over, and I'm holding on to this gurney just crying. I'm going to cry now because I can't help it, but he walks over, he takes his hat off, and it's that Fedor hat. It's the same hat that Dad talked about. And he said, can I pray for you, Jonathan? I said, yeah, man. He prays for me, takes his hat, puts it back on his head, walks out, turns left. The hallway's a 50-foot hallway. There's nowhere else to go. He turns left. As soon as he turns left, it clicks in my head, Fedor Hat. Same story I'd heard 317 times from my dad. I stepped out the door and looked left. He's gone. I said, where's the dude that came out of this room? He goes, you're the only one in the room. I turned back around. Mike's at the big door. Big Mike's at the door. Steps out of the door, says, hey, man, your dad didn't make it. Here's what the guy prayed over me, though. He put his hand on me and he said, Jonathan, you are going to be strong enough to handle everything that comes at you from here on. And I thought that it meant this moment. I thought that it meant that moment. I thought that it meant when I walked out and saw my whole family fell on me and I held them. I thought it was literally physically holding them up. April 29th, 2010, 10:22 p.m. I get shot. Severs my tibial artery. I fall down on the ground and I'm thinking about, I'm going to die right here. I'm bleeding out. I'm pouring blood out of my leg. I don't know what to do. So I grab my leg and I squeeze. Now I've been told it's not possible to do what happened, which was I tourniqueted my leg with my own hands. But that's what happened. You're going to be strong enough to handle that moment and this moment. And then you're strong enough to start a business. And you're strong enough to go through the ups and downs of businesses and failures and just fighting for things. And so God doesn't do things accidentally. It's never an accident. So when I say it took things from me, it did. But it gave me way more than I could have ever asked for.
Well, and that's when that moment is when we plan for and we prepare for. It feels like what we want or what we should have is being taken away from us.
Yeah, it does. And you think, well, this is the end. This is the end. I can't do anything else. It's the end. Yeah. And then it takes years to realize that every time you turn around and you look back and you know, when we were initially talking, and I don't mean to get ahead, but when you were initially talking, it was, you know, what are things that you do? And I'm going to tell people, like, look back. Look back.
So that's, what did you learn? If you take it, and we just tossed through a little bit of it, but what are a couple of things you think you learned when all that's stripped away? False identity, right? Identity in Christ. We got to be a son before we can be anything else, right?
Sure.
So false identity stripped away from you. Job is stripped away from you. Being the tough guy, it's like a law enforcement, first responders. I think we do a huge disservice to them because they always have to be on the A game. Yeah. They can't come up and be like, hey man, I've had a bad day.
You don't get to have an off day.
Yeah. So we'll get to the arrest that we need. I'm sorry, this is going on. We'll get to that. I got to talk about my feelings first.
Yeah.
So when all that stripped, when all that stripped away from you, what did you learn about yourself? You hit on the strength and where you're getting the strength and putting that together. What's some other things you learned?
Man, there's slow down, peace. Peace is a very important piece. Peace is an important piece.
Say that 3 times really fast.
Right. You can't.
You may have to go pee.
I tell you what's been interesting is it's a slow burn. It's a long game for me. Where I typically am real stubborn and stupid when it comes to learning what God's trying to teach me. I'm sure people can identify with that.
I know. I mean, I never.
You learned the first time.
I'm just first time. Yeah, I'm not stubborn at all.
I figured you would be the first time learner.
Yeah.
But he typically has to remind me of things, like something else happens. Now that I'm practicing gratitude every day. Yeah. Learning that I have to be grateful for this particular moment, because if I'm not grateful for this particular moment, how can I be grateful for the next moment and the next moment? And so the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, literally to this day, the first thing I do is I go, thank you, God, for one more day. And I just try to focus on that one day. Like, what can I do today? What can I do today to impact somebody's life? Yeah. Even just one.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, the easiest way for us to stay grateful, I think, or at least for me, sounds like for you as well, is if I focus on those around me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Other people. Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, what was given to me was free. And they said the only condition was I had to give it away every day because it's the only way I could keep it. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense, but I'll whatever, But that practice of just serving those around you that are in need. And somebody may look at serving like you got to do something crazy and miraculous. I mean, it could be as simple as a phone call, a text.
It could be as simple as you walk into my gym and you've been told by your doctor, if you don't drop your cholesterol points, you're going to die. And I go, hey, let me help you.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
Let's start moving.
And do it.
Let's do something.
Yeah. So what have you done? So, what did you learn about yourself? I want to put it in a gym context because I get to pick on you. It's like,
That's fine. Go
it's
ahead.
like, man, we're going to do, 50 burpees, right?
Awful. Sounds terrible.
It does sound terrible. And I'm like at 40 and I'm dying and you're screaming and hollering. He doesn't do that anymore, folks.
I don't do that anymore.
He's coddling
I'm
you
a
now.
sweetheart now.
He's a sweetheart now. But it's like, dude, I can't do 10 more. And you're just hollering and pushing through.
Don't be a sissy.
Yeah. And so that when the pain is so great, but there's something on the other side of it, and sticking with it. Like what did you learn through the physical pain of being shot about yourself that you could withstand that you didn't have before?
Well, you never know until you actually do it, right? You never know until you try. One of the things I tell people all the time, they're like, "Oh, I can't do that," and I'm like, "Well, when's the last time you tried that?"
Yeah.
And they look at me like I got a third eye. And they're like, "Well, I've never tried that." And I'm like, "Then how do you know you can't do it?"
Yeah.
And they try. You don't know. Just try. So I think if I were to whittle it down for me personally, it's that you are way, way tougher than you actually think you are if you're just willing to try. And
That's good, man. I mean, that's how many people aren't even willing to try, and that's
a lot of people are willing to try, but it's the consistency. And we were talking with the crew, like it's consistency. It's not about like, did you come in and did you do the 50 burpees? Cool.
Yeah.
You did the 50 burpees. Now what? You've got to do it again.
Yeah.
You need to do that.
And don't eat the 2 cheeseburgers and
just start with the burpees, man.
Yeah.
Let's do that 3 times a week now. Right? Let's do that 4 times a week. Consistency of your disciplines is very important, right? For a while, I did a calendar thing where I would put it in my phone, and I would have everything line itemed off on the calendar, and it was like practice gratitude, all right, pray, sit in silence, all down this list.
So what are your I call them my double D's, those daily disciplines. What are those double D's, those things that you're doing? So it's you're practicing your gratitude.
Gratitude's the first thing.
Gratitude's first thing.
Yep.
What's your silence, prayer?
Silence is another big one. Silence and prayer. Gratitude, silence, prayer. That's a daily. That's how the day starts.
Yep.
And then it's just like the monotony of whatever you're doing for the day, right?
Yeah.
Then for the gym, for mental health, for me, just because I've been through a lot, been hurt a lot, lots of pain, and I have to lift. I have to lift weights.
Yeah.
I don't really do CrossFit anymore, believe it or not. It's not really, I do a lot more. I lift or I lift a little bit faster. Yeah. But I'm not looking to be a CrossFit Games athlete anymore. Like there's a lot of gyms around that do that, you know, and I'm just not one.
Yeah.
I'm looking to help, people like you, people like me,
basically fat old people.
Right.
Exactly.
Fragile, fat old people that are unflexible. Like that's what I'm looking for.
That's great. I
use that every day. Like if I feel like I'm having an off day, because listen, man, depression comes for anybody. All depression is a series of negative thoughts that you just keep thinking about. Mm-hmm. Right. Neuroplasticity. I can't remember who wrote the book, but it's, they talk about neuroplasticity in this book, and it's the thing that you dwell on over and over again is the thing that starts becoming what you find, right? It's the sciencey version of like the law of attraction. Yeah. Right? If you focus on negative all the time and you see the negative every time you look at your spouse and you see something negative every single time you look at your spouse, well, that's what you're going to see over and over and over again. And then that becomes depression, or that becomes like, this is the cause of my problem. Yeah. And so what I do when I feel that is the little things that helped me after I got shot was I had my own little program. The first thing was called the Truth Anchor, right? And the Truth Anchor was this thing that it was something that was uniquely mine, that was absolutely true, and nobody could take away, and it wouldn't change. And for me, what that was at the time was I had a recording of my oldest daughter. She was 1.5 or however old they are when they start talking. And it was this little voice that would say, "I love you, Daddy." And that moment, nobody could take that moment. It wouldn't change. It's always going to be that. And so then I would begin to do things like, after you have that truth anchor, you can do what's called the fear paradox, which is you face the very thing that you don't want to face, right? And you measure it against this truth anchor. So the world would be better off without me. Man, I should just kill myself and move on. Well, I'm measuring it against this truth anchor now, right? The truth anchor is I love you, Daddy.
Yeah.
And if my daughter loves me, then the world's not better off without me. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And so it pulled me out of that depression and those things that I've dealt with. And so I learned how to do that. And the more you do it, the more you find those little moments like that. And when the negative stuff starts coming in or the depression starts coming in or whatever it is, it's easier to change your mindset, change that mindset into something positive and drag yourself out of the mud.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm glad you drug yourself out of the mud.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed our friendship over the years. I probably need to see you more in the gym.
Come on, man.
Yeah, and do it. But as we're wrapping up, if you look here at that camera and talk specifically to the man that is right where you were, where just everything feels like who they are and what they were and built for and everything has just been ripped away.
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
I would say that you are worth the effort. You are worth the effort to make change. You are worth the effort to change your mindset and to move forward to a place of peace and find who you are literally meant to be. Because until you can do that, you can't know who you are. You can't know who you're meant to be.
Man, that's awesome. That's really awesome. And one last thing here, we all come in contact with first responders.
Sure.
Just a simple, like, hey, how are you doing? And there's all kind of controversy all around, but it's got to mean something. If you just thank you for your service or what's that one thing that someone, what can someone say to engage, just to uplift, to help change, just to change the view out here today to the first responders?
I think a lot of society, well, let's change that. I don't think a lot of society is this way. I think a lot of media is this way, and they try to spin things to make it look like the cops are the bad guys, or that all these negative things are going on. And I don't think that's the majority of people. Right. I think majority of people, I think they really appreciate what those first responders do.
Yeah.
And a simple thank you goes a long way. Thank you for what you do.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
You don't have to. I mean, I wouldn't recommend going up and giving them a hug or anything. I mean, you might get
a tased. Yeah, that'd be good. So don't try that this week. But we do, man. Thanks for being. Yeah, man. That's awesome. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
And thank you for watching. And hey, let's challenge you this week. Let's go out. Let's thank a first responder. Thanks for watching. Check back next week for another great episode.